Hi, everybody. So, today I would like to read a couple favorite scenes from my first two books, As the Winds Change and Where You Are, the follow up, and I will get started. So, this is from As the Winds Change, and it's chapter 11, Graduation Day. The children are all dressed up in colorful dresses and vests. They arrive in groups of 4 and 5, all abuzz, as they show their parents where to sit. Once our last special guest has arrived, I line the children up and lead them to the front of the classroom. A few parents pull out their phones. I frown, resisting the urge to tell them how rude they're being. Then the children start to sing, and everyone's attention is fixated on their sweet faces. There are a few skipped words and misplaced voices here and there, but they all look joyful as they shout out the finale of the Itsy Bitsy Spider. Even Abby participates this time, with a little smirk etched on her face as her glimmering eyes look right at me. I feel a thumping in my chest as my eyes begin to water. After hearing the children practice their songs over and over, I never expected to be this overcome with emotion. Damien sings the loudest. I stand at the back of the room, mouthing the words and pointing to my smile to remind them to look happy and have fun. I'm so proud of them. They lit up my life. They provided me with joy and stability, while the rest of my life crumbled. Every little thing strikes me as special today. When I sign Abby's preschool graduation certificate and she beams at me a real smile and not her usual mischievous smirk. When Damien runs across the room to give me one last long hug before leaving. When Madison's mom gives me a tearful embrace and thanks me for taking such good care of her little girl this year. I made a difference in these families' lives. Every day I spent with these children was a chance to help them grow and show them they are loved. These parents trusted me with their children, with their hearts and minds. That's huge. I don't think I truly believed it until today, but I haven't been wasting my time or my talents. This realization is going to make it harder to say goodbye, but it's time. My children are graduating today, and so am I. Leaving the familiar behind, I'm on my way to doing what I've been encouraging them to do. Confidently pursue new adventures no matter how scared you may be at first. These children don't recognize the significance of today, but I do. Days like these, moments like these, that's what makes life. After seeing all my boys and girls off and saying goodbye to Danielle, I walk out to my car in a daze. I decide that today is the perfect day to head back to Greenvale Park with Johnny. It doesn't feel right to head straight home. I need to stare out at that beautiful lake and let the fresh air wash over me, and I need Johnny. So that is an excerpt from As the Winds Change, the first book. And this is the follow-up, Where You Are. And I have marked chapter here. I had started reading in one of the other videos the beginning of this chapter, so I'm going to start in the middle of it. And it's also, I think chapter 11 was the other one too, but chapter 11, Family Reunion. And this is in the middle of the chapter. I nod in hopeful acceptance of my wish, and just as I do, I see that Johnny and I have reached our destination. And by the way, this is also when Johnny and April are in heaven together. So I will start that again. I nod in hopeful acceptance of my wish, and just as I do, I see that Johnny and I have reached our destination, this incredibly charming seaside village of white buildings. There are colorful, thinly shaped trees in between each place. At the end of this village lane, a large body of water spreads out in a crystal blue expanse. We walk up a set of brightly painted white steps on the right side of this colonial-style building with scalloped decorative touch beneath the top window. Next door is a shop called Chocolate Delights. We're going to have to make a stop in there, I say to Johnny with a childlike grin. Johnny nods, grinning back. You got it. I arrive at the door. It has a gold knocker and gold numbering that reads the number 7. That's my grandma's favorite number, I excitedly remark. My heart starts racing as my thoughts travel back to when I saw each of my grandparents last. My grandfather had left us first, succumbing to lymphoma. 2 years later, Grandma passed away after a long, heartbreaking run of Alzheimer's disease. I wasn't even in my teens when both of their illnesses began to take their toll, but I remember how worn they both were at the end. That might be all they think I remember, but the reality is, because they lived with us, their influence greatly instilled in me the passion, discipline, and resilience I have today. Not a single day passes that I don't think of their reactions to whatever I'm doing or pursuing. I remember my grandfather handing me a wallet-sized picture of himself one day and saying, "Here, so you don't forget me." I could never forget them. They are a part of me, and I've missed them. My hand shakes as I knock, and the tears don't wait. Tears pour down my face at first glimpse of my grandfather through the just open space in the door. I'm flooded with the coffee scent he always had. He's just as tall and strong as I remembered. His steel grayish blue eyes, just as intense as I remember, have a watery glimmer in them as he takes me in. My mouth hangs open just slightly. No words come, and I wrap my arms around him as he bends down to do the same. Grandma shows up behind him, a half smile in her brown eyes just like mine. She smells the way I remember her, a mix of white cedarwood patchouli and wild honeysuckle. She grins, and her sweet round face is just how I remembered as well. They are both 33 now, as Johnny pointed out. Their features are younger and sharper, but the essence of them never disappeared, despite what they were going through. Their hair was gray by the time I was born. Grandma always had her hair short and styled the way many older women her age did, but she was always stylish. I see her hair color now as a light brown, and it's cut in the same style as mine, straight and ending a bit above the shoulders. Grandpa's hair is dark blonde. Actually, it's exactly the same as Kevin's. He really looks a lot like Kevin, only with that 1940s touch that gives him the swagger of a Dean Martin, only better because he's my grandpa. Johnny and I make our way in. Bella races over to us, doing her little hip shake of a greeting with a pink, hard, squeaky toy in her mouth. I'm speechless as I look up at both my grandmother and grandfather while kneeling down to pet Bella. I notice how my grandfather takes my grandmother's hand as they're only walking to the kitchen table. My heart bubbles with happiness at the love that remains. They're the same age as me now, but they're still my grandparents. In my emotions, I revert back to that little girl they know, needing to know if I've been making them proud. What do they think of me being here right now? You look even more like your mom now, Grandma says with nostalgic fondness as we all sit down at their small rectangular kitchen table that is not dissimilar to the one we all sat at growing up. The kitchen is tiny but comfortable with cream-colored walls. "It's so good to see you, my good girl," Grandpa breaks the tension in my heart with his confident, strong voice. I glance over at Johnny, whose eyes crinkle with a smile, allowing me to take everything in. Beyond the kitchen, in the hallway, I see a set of golf clubs resting against the wall in a forest green bag, and I see a needle through teal green and pink yarn that looks like the beginnings of a blanket my grandma is making. I'm seeing the pieces of their lives, and none of it surprises me. This is in fact an extension of their lives that I knew. It makes me happy that Grandpa continues to golf, since there wasn't a day that went by that golf wasn't part of my grandfather, whether he was playing or watching the game on the television in the family room. I can still hear the clapping, the sound of the golf club hitting the ball, the announcer, and the birds and wind in the background. Grandma knitting is also a picture I often saw when I was little, her making a sweater or blanket in this floral upholstered chair in the living room of the house we had on Long Island. "Is Sandy coming today?" Grandpa asked. "No, it's all about our girl right now," Johnny winks at me. "It's so nice to see you two together again. You were the one friend of April's who I knew was a good one right from the start. I don't know if you would have felt that way with the path I went on in my latter years." Grandpa shakes his head. "It's all learning, and it continues." A book pile seems to be growing on a little wood table toward the back of the kitchen. I can't read the titles from where I'm sitting, but they are quite thick. Grandma catches me squinting to see. "That's your grandpa, still reading as many books as he can get his hands on." "That is my grandpa," I grin. He looks down with a modest grin. My grandfather still studying and learning doesn't surprise me when I really think about it. My grandfather was a police officer, a bricklayer, and he briefly worked for a cookie company. He fought in World War II, he had working class jobs. but in his private family time, I would always see him with a book. He had an appreciation for art and music and was an incredibly hard worker. The time dictated what he was meant to be, but inside his soul, he was similar to my brother, who wanted to research, find answers, and was very open to learning different material and ways of being. I have to tell you, though, my good girl, Grandpa says in his parental guardian, no room for debate voice, it's wonderful to see you again, but you can't stay here. What do you mean? I'm immediately on the defensive. Your story on Earth is not done. I don't accept that. You're too young yet. Johnny was too, I reply back. Grandma chimes in, yes, but your story is different. You have a lot of bright happenings still. Isn't this God's decision? Yes, Grandpa cuts back in, but I've been looking into what's going on with you on Earth, and I believe the problem is more spiritual than physical. The doctors don't study enough of all the other factors that could be going on but beyond plain science. I've been studying here, and the mind and heart are just as significant. You'll see. I don't know, Grandpa, but I missed you both so much. These dimes you leave me are not enough. I don't know what you're trying to tell me. I choke back the emotions bubbling up inside me. I'm telling you that I'm proud of you. Keep going. We love you and we're with you, he says. Johnny strokes my arm. I know you're all with me, I sniffle. That's what makes it all so hard. I can feel your presence, but I can't hug you. Grandma stands up and comes over to me and gives me the softest, encompassing hug. Grandpa follows. Let's go out, he says matter-of-factly, giving me a deliberate kiss on the cheek. Okay, just one thing. I hold my finger up and head over to the counter where I noticed a pen and then make my way to the refrigerator to scribble a note on the magnetic pad. I love you, Dad. Love, April. Grandma, Grandpa, and Johnny look on with happiness on all their faces. Just in case I do return to Earth, can you make sure he gets this? I ask. Of course, Grandpa smiles, placing his arm around me as my hand goes to my heart, overwhelmed at how wonderful it feels to fully forgive and embrace love over everything else. So I hope you enjoyed these excerpts from As the Winds Change and Where You Are. I want to thank you all, as always, for supporting me and my writing. And hopefully very soon I will have big Sapphire Stars news. So I will talk to you then. Bye.